My name is Charlotte Maberly and I'm the Programme Leader of MSc Gastronomy at Queen Margaret University.
And my name is Stan Blackley and I lecture on the course.
Charlotte, I think you set this up, one of the originators. Can you tell me why you did it and what you mean and understand by gastronomy?
Sure, so gastronomy came about out of a perceived need that we needed to start studying food or conceptualising food in a different way. So it so happens that often in academia and in school you study food from very particular angles. It might be just nutrition or in terms of its commodity value and perhaps even about food safety. But it's very rare that we look at food in its most holistic sense, which is to think about food beyond the plate, food in terms of culture, food in terms of food systems, the science of food, and how food is communicated and understood all at the same time. And we perceive this as really important because the food system is increasingly becoming dysfunctional in our world. And in order to address that, and in order to address the potentially damaging diets that people are adopting in the Western world, we need to look at it in a holistic sense and try and solve the problem holistically.
So why did you call it gastronomy? Because I think most people's understanding of gastronomy is not in that sense. It's much narrower, thinking about what you eat.
Actually, it's quite pertinent in a way because yes, the term gastronomy is understood to mean fancy foods, but the etymology of the word actually means knowledge of the stomach and knowledge of what we eat, knowledge of what nourishes us. And because it's such a misunderstood word, and because food is so largely misunderstood in our world, we felt that the two kind of went hand in hand. We're challenging the word as much as we're challenging people's contemporary knowledge of food.
So, Stan, how did you get involved in this?
Well, I came to the course after roughly 25 years background in environmental and social campaigning and political activity, and I came to the course driven by this idea that food is a cause or a driver of a whole load of environmental and social problems in the planet. And potentially it's a very good way, one, to communicate those problems. Food is ubiquitous. It's taken for granted, but it is ubiquitous. But two, it's potentially a solution to a lot of those problems. So I came to study the course, and at the end of the year studying the course was lucky enough to be taken on, in particular, to look at the food systems element and the geopolitics of food.
So you're now teaching it?
I am indeed, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of results have you seen? What has happened to some of the people who've been on the course so far?
Well, lots of different things. I think for everyone who comes on the course, they do feel that their perceptions of food have been challenged, and this is important because a lot of them are coming from the food industry already, or coming from education or from food communications work, and this gives them a whole new sort of lease on life, if you will, on what the issue that they're engaged with in their daily lives and their daily jobs. A lot of them have gone on to food communications work and food education work. So again, trying to change the way we talk about food and change the way that we think about food. What else?
Yeah, well, in the same way that there's no one place that you find a potential gastronomer, there's no one place in the market that you then send a gastronomer out to. No. Certain courses are, you stay in the silo. Ours go out and they try to impact every part of the system. They engage with every part of the system. And in a sense, many of them go back to doing what they did before, but they go with a new ethos or a new insight or a new philosophy and a new way of operating. And many of them go back to set up their own organisations or their own pieces of work. And one of the examples of that would be some of our students who, looking at alternative markets, uncovered the idea of food assemblies. They went off and decided to follow that through and set up Scotland's first food assembly, and there are now, I guess, 6 or 7 throughout Scotland, and it's a model that's spreading, and that may not have ever happened if those guys hadn't come and done the course.
Yeah, I think what struck me when talking to the people is the range of experience you have of the people taking this course, many of whom have worked for 10 or 20 years in different parts of the food industry. Yeah. Do they get a lot from exchanging with each other?
Massively.
I think more than they get from me, certainly. Yeah, it's fantastic being able to get people with a breadth of backgrounds with a whole range of experience to come to the course, because each of them not only brings their own experience, but they're able to challenge each other, they're able to learn from each other, and very often they're able to teach us a new approach or a new insight to food as well.
So are there any kind of key points you'd want to point people to after a few years' experience in this?
One of the key ones is going back to where we started, that this is not necessarily about food per se. We do cook on the course, but only once or twice, and it's generally an examination of the science of food transformation. We do eat a lot though, and we do talk a lot, and it is a holistic and wholesome evaluation of food that we do here. We don't just go down the line of food being fuel and only nourishing you in the way that we incorporate it into our bodies. Food does so much more than that, and what we try to do is unpack the way that it shapes our identities, our characters, our societies, our communities, our economics, our trade, our finance, our geopolitics, and everything around that. And it's key, if anyone is interested in the course, that they have to understand that we are generalist about food. We're not going down any one line. We do cover nutrition, we do cover farming techniques and production techniques, we do cover trading and so on, but we try to do an awful lot more than that and connect them all together.
Yeah, just to support that, I'd say that gastronomy is essentially about, well, it's doing something that we need to do in our society at large, which is to question assumptions that have been driving the structure of our systems and the structure of our schooling and our economy that we may not have questioned up till now, that we may just be living with and assuming that they're working. But actually it's really important constantly to reassess these constructions that we've made around us, the way we've structured our lives, and ask, is it really working? Does this actually work for us? I think particularly in relation to the Food Systems Academy and what you're doing, that's, it's essential. It's absolutely essential. But I think food has become something in our lives which is not what it actually is anymore. Food has become a commodity, it's become dangerous, or it's become a source of anxiety, and less a connection to nature, less a celebration of our culture and diversity, and less a less pleasure. And we need to reaffirm that.
Thank you.